Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marvel Plus podcast, the show where we talk the Marvel shows on Disney Plus and how they connect to the MCU. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011. You can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can catch it over there, drop a follow. You'll get notified when we go live so you don't join in on all the fun theory talk and discussion. But if you can't catch it live, it's A-okay. If you're watching it here on YouTube, drop a follow, subscription, all that fun stuff. Join in on the conversation in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the show, movie, etc. And, yeah, we'll get back to you. But, yeah, today we're going to be talking about What If Season 2. We're going to talk the full season, the recap, thoughts, all that jazz. If you didn't know, the series, Season 2, they kind of released it over this holiday break or holiday season. 9 episodes spanning over 9 days, which was a little fun, nice surprise. Seemed like a quick turnaround from when they initially announced, like, it was coming. Or at least that launch trailer, whatever you want to call it. And I finally got a chance to sit down and watch it, so I'm going to talk about all the fun episodes. Now, from what I recall, What If Season 1, I was very excited going into it, just because of that mystery, not mystery, the random shenanigans, I guess, we could get into, because there's no, no hard ties to anything. Creators can just have fun and mess with these characters and do different stuff with them. That's not going to fully affect the cinematic universe or has to follow certain guidelines, etc., etc. They can have more fun with it. And I think for what Season 1 gave us, I think I enjoyed it quite a bit. There were definitely ups and downs with it, but I did enjoy the path that they did decide to go with building up to this one final episode where it's all going to kind of collide together and become one thing. And we got that a little bit with Season 2. Season 2 was another one that was, ups and downs. I still enjoyed it a lot. Some stories definitely hit a little harder than others. But we tried, or rather they tried again for this big culmination episode towards the end, towards the finale. And I don't know if it hit as well as maybe Season 1's did in terms of just like the narrative or story there. It kind of just felt like not a flash in the pan, but it could have been maybe built upon a little bit more or a little bit more satisfying of a story element there. So let's jump on into it. So like I said, they did have 9 episodes this season. Let me just rattle off what the 9 episodes were. So we had Nebula joining the Nova Corps. We had Peter Quill attacking Earth's Mightiest Heroes. We had Happy Hogan saving Christmas, Iron Man crashing into the Grand Master, Captain Carter fighting the Hydra Stomper, Kahori reshaping the world, Hela finding the 10 rings, the Avengers assembling in 1602, and our finale was Strange Supreme intervening. So, let's go episode by episode. Once again, not doing a full recap, just kind of general thoughts, overview of each of them. So we started with Nebula joining the Nova Corps. So I think the synopsis here, or at least what they were setting up, was she had broke away, obviously, from Thanos and the Black Order. There was something that she was like found by Nova Prime, and Nova Prime gave her a second chance, and she swore an oath to the Nova Corps. And we kind of get to see her side of things on Xandar. That was the rest of it. So with Guardians 1, obviously Ronan's working for Thanos to get the gem, the Power Stone. He gets the Power Stone in the MCU canon. Obviously, he kind of rebels, but he gets his butt kicked. This time he rebelled. He took out Thanos, if I'm not mistaken. And then Xandar kind of locked everything down to avoid the invasion that was coming from Ronan and the Kree. I guess the shield was supposed to protect for like 50 years, but this was 5 years in isolation and what's going on Xandar. So we see that Yondu has been killed, so we're trying to figure out what's going on with him. We see a few different characters. We see Groot making a return, Meek, Drax, Korg, I believe his name is. And Howard the Duck is kind of a big player in this one. So we see all of them return and what they're doing on Xandar, kind of working at this like club casino that Howard the Duck runs. But they're friendly enough, or rather they assist wow. They help Nebula here with trying to figure out Yondu's murder. Turns out to be this like double triple cross thing of like Nova Prime being like, oh, well, the isolation sucked. The whole planet's gone to shit. And I've struck up a deal with Ronan to still be in charge, but he can come in and wipe away the rest of the Nova people. And I'm like, oh, okay. They did have another character in here, Yanrog, who was like some kind of hacker that helped Nebula get the schematics that she needed, or rather the codes. I don't think that was anyone in the MCU. I'm going to do a quick search right here. Let's see. Oh, okay. He was apparently one of the Kree in Captain Marvel's like initial Squid Squad. Okay. Yeah, I didn't recognize him at all. They kind of alluded to one of the guards with Nova Prime, which I believe was in Guardians 1, the one that kind of like one of the commanders that didn't trust Quill super well, or Star-Lord, but ended up like locking the ships, dying in the end. Sorry, getting on a sidetrack. Okay, so Yanrog is another returning character. I didn't recognize him, but so yeah, like I said, Nova Prime does a little double cross. Nebula is smart enough to be like triple cross and blows up Ronan with the shield opening on the planet and then closes on his ship. And I was like, okay, that's a little convenient that you happen to dupe the people who are duping you. I don't know. That was where it fell apart for me of like, oh, you just saw this coming from a mile away. It wasn't even the element of like you have to overcome this giant obstacle put in front of you rather, and overcome, just as heroes kind of do. She just kind of already knew it, and then yeah, just Uno reverse card back at Nova Prime. So yeah, first episode was fine. Wasn't the most exciting just based on that ending. Like it was interesting, like, oh crap, Nova Prime's the bad one. But then yeah, just to be like, oh, triple cross, like right back at her. I was like, that was silly. Episode 2, I will say I enjoyed a lot more, and I think it's more because of the team-up element. So we had Quill against the Avengers, and I think it's just more fun seeing the more different elements get included so quickly, and like a lot of different characters doing different things than what we've seen in the movie universe. We'll get to that later. But yeah, so we had a wide variety of characters in this one. Obviously, Peter's a kid, so sorry. Premise for this one is Yondu does not keep Peter. He does deliver him to his father, Ego. Ego pretty much takes Quill and helps him with his celestial powers. Quill comes back to Earth looking for home, but he's destructive, so we need to kind of go into an emergency plan with S.H.I.E.L.D. and put together kind of a ragtag group, seemingly the Avengers. So Peggy and Howard Stark are the ones in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., so they kind of get the team together. So they get Hank Pym as Ant-Man, Bill Foster as Goliath, King T'Chaka, Black Panther. We got Winter Soldier from Russia, because Russia's like, oh shit, we got a problem here. And then we got Wendy Lawson, who was part of the Kree as well. Now, I don't recall... See, I feel bad because I don't remember some of these movies as well as other ones. I don't know if she was part of the Captain Marvel movie as well as like what's his name? Whatever the guy from earlier was. So this is bringing up Marvel, which is like the original thing. Annette Bening portrayed a gender swap version of Marvel, Wendy Lawson, in the MCU film Captain Marvel. Okay, so she was in the Captain Marvel film. Okay. She didn't seem to have the powers of Captain Marvel. She was just kind of flying around, mainly in this episode. But that was our ragtag group of heroes for this incident. So yeah, they assemble. They think Quill's going to be here to destroy the planet from outer space. And thanks to the help of Hope Van Dyne, younger version of Pym. She relates to him, obviously being the same age or similar age, both losing their mom at a young age. And she learns rather, that Quill just wants to be home. He didn't want to be with his dad. His dad, Ego, we see him taking his tape deck and kind of destroying it and just showing him the magic, which obviously is very important for him with his mom and that connective tissue, but he just wanted to be here. And the heroes realize, hey, we can't stop Ego because he's too powerful, after they have a little scuffle with Quill himself. So they decide we need to get Quill on our side, and then we can do spectral magic, or rather celestial magic against celestial magic. Hopefully that'll help. We also get a little bit of a different scenario with Bucky being there. Peggy and Howard picked up on it right away, like, oh my god, he looks just like Bucky. Wait a minute. It is Bucky. So we did have that talk down moment where we're trying to help Winter Soldier as well. I believe at the end of the episode he does break free from Moscow, so he doesn't go back there, and he's kind of on his own trajectory. We did also have Thor show up in this episode later on to help the team, but he's got a little bit different motivations. Apparently the 9 realms, Quill has been kind of going from planet to planet, and he's taken out, obviously Earth is Midgard, the other 8 realms, so Thor's here to try and take care of him, but obviously also ends up on the good side and helps those guys. At the end of this episode, they do remain a team, because Thor claims to avenge those who are lost from the other planets. Excuse me. So him and the rest of like these Avengers go out and try and put a stop to any other evil forces. I'm thinking of a later episode. Yeah, I didn't write it down here. Yeah. So they are going to help others. It's pretty much the thing here. Then we got our fun, cheeky episode. We got Happy Hogan saving Christmas. So premise here, it seemed like it was like around Avengers 2. I don't know if this actually tied into any movie events, but holiday party, and Maria Hill and Happy Hogan and Darcy are like in charge of making this party, and things go awry because Justin Hammer comes in, makes a return, and just decides, hey, I'm going to steal tech. And Happy has to save the day. Maria gets attacked. Darcy's not even there. And yeah, Happy, just kind of like a goofy, determined hero, is able to get back at Hammer. Hammer's trying to steal Hulk blood at one point, and that's where the goofiness comes in, because Happy gets stabbed with the Hulk blood, so he kind of becomes a Hulk, but he's fully aware of himself and just able to control his psyche, I guess you could say. So he's able to do that. The Avengers, unfortunately, can't help it this time because they're all at different events, but eventually they come back and take care of that problem, and eventually go to the party, and Thor arrives late to the party. So yeah, it was more of a silly episode. That one was fine. Next one, I would say, probably had one of the better stories, or at least point to point. So this is where we started getting more connective tissue, or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not consecutive, but episodes that kind of built on or combined with other ones to create a bigger narrative. So this one was about Iron Man. It was about Iron Man crashing into the Grandmaster, but it tied into Gamora's story from season 1. Now, if I recall, because it's been a while, Gamora showed up like right at the finale, and we got no backstory on her. With season 1, it seemed like each of the Guardians of the Multiverse, we got like an origin story, and then they kind of came together. I think Gamora, they just kind of shoved in there at the end. This was supposed to be Gamora's backstory, and it is, but it's also this fun twist on the Iron Man narrative. So in this universe, Avengers 1, the attack on New York happens. Iron Man brings up the nuke to Thanos and, the Chitauri base. He doesn't make it back through the wormhole, and instead gets bip-bopped, zipped all over to Sakaar and the Grandmaster. And it's his journey, pretty much, of how do I get out of here? How do I get back home? It's very similar to, obviously, Thor Dark World. No, not Thor Dark World, excuse me. Thor Ragnarok. Same situation there, where Thor's trapped for a little while. Got to do the whole challenge thing. Except instead of the Coliseum this time, they do like a Grand Prix race. So Stark eventually gets the help from some allies, Valkyrie, Meek, Korg. Gets the help of them. Gamora eventually shows up, and she's hunting Stark because obviously of what happened with the nuke. Thanos isn't too happy about that. So he's also dealing, Tony's also dealing with the Gamora issue. Eventually leads to a big race where if Tony wins, he can be let go, and he's going to try and help out the planet because Grandmaster's not the best of leaders here, at least in terms of his people. So with the help of his friends, eventually talking Gamora down and kind of relating to the whole father thing, they're able to succeed. Grandmaster tries to play it off like they tied, but luckily through some teamwork, they're able to get rid of the Grandmaster, and Valkyrie is appointed leader of Sakaar, so she kind of takes over there. And we kind of get a fun little twist here where Gamora, Stark's leaving on a spaceship, but Gamora ambushes him and is like, oh, well, sorry, I'm taking you prisoner to Thanos. She brings him to Thanos. Thanos is all happy, like, hey, you did a great job. And then we get the heroes making their double turn as Gamora and Stark take out Thanos there using, I don't remember the Grandmaster's, like, guard staff, but use that there. So that kind of gives that backstory of Gamora of why she was good for season 1. And then, yeah, so obviously the Thanos thing isn't even a thing in that universe. So I think from there, Tony would just go home. Okay, Captain Carter fighting the Hydra Stomper. What was the synopsis here? So this was a continuation of Captain Carter's story. She got returned back to, excuse me, her time period after the whole Guardians of the Multiverse thing, and this is pretty much a continuation of her if she was in Steve's place. So we have Avengers 1, we got the attack on New York City. We have a slight change of roster of the Avengers in there. Only one member swapped here. We have Wasp in this universe instead of the Hulk. We got Peggy and Natasha working together really, really well. I think later I kind of compared them to like Steve and the Falcon, how they work together. So it was kind of going through her story, and there's a lot of comparisons I could see to Captain America 2 in here, and eventually Civil War, where instead of Bucky making a return, Bucky in this universe I think was like Secretary of State or something. The Hydra Stomper is the Winter Soldier. It's the comparison. Steve's back. He's in the Hydra Stomper suit. The suit is keeping him alive, but every time he's activated, it like increases his chance, or decreases his chance? Yeah, decreases his chance of survivability, and it's dealing with that. So like I said, there's a whole combination of movies. You had the Captain America 2 elements, you had Civil War elements, and later on you would eventually get Black Widow, the film, elements of that with the whole Red Room, and then Melina was there. Natasha's like adopted mom. So it turned into this whole thing where they thought they knocked the Stomper and Steve out of it, but he was still in control, or being controlled, to lure Natasha and Captain Carter to the Red Room area so then they could take care of them and eliminate them. So it turned into a fight with Carter going against Stomper and Steve trying to knock him out of it, and then Widow against all of the other Black Widows, or rather Natasha against all the other Black Widows. And yeah, this was a decent one too. You got to see, like I said, those parallels to what the movies did and just the slight difference. And I kind of like how they combined a lot of the elements from the different movies in there, so you could see more of a full story of Captain Carter and her journey, because she's kind of like the main character for this what if universe, it seems. So eventually they're able to get through to Steve. He can't fully break out, but he has enough power to be like, I'm going to get rid of the Red Room. So he does like Independence Day suicide bomb up the butt of the Red Room, like aerial base. Melina's hooked onto it through a grappling hook, so they're able to do 2 birds, 1 stone. So blows up the Red Room, removes that. We get the closing, elements of it. It seems similar to, I'm trying to think of what farewell it was similar to, but it's another one that was like a la Falcon, very similar with Falcon and Cap. Watcher says this isn't the end of her story, but then something happens and the Watcher's surprised by it, which is obviously interesting knowing him. We see a red bolt kind of appear on the ground, and a wormhole sucks Peggy in there away. We'll see a quick little glimpse as she wakes up. We see an older version of Nick Fury and Scarlet Witch. Scarlet says she's the one to save our world. Peggy calls out for the Watcher but gets no response. So you get a little fun cliffhanger there. Then we get Kahori reshaping the world. Now, to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure Kahori is completely like brand new for this series. So that was cool. So just real quick here, the synopsis of what was going on or why things were going on. So Ragnarok, when it happens, you know, Asgard's going to get blown up. Ragnarok came before Odin could stow away the Tesseract somewhere. So the Tesseract kind of like shatters and infects this lake with space energy, which creates a portal to the Sky World, I believe is what it was called. And the people in the Sky World, who we'll meet eventually, they get kind of gifted powers thanks to the space energy of the Tesseract. So the really cool thing here was this was a Native American, like, fully inspired episode. Like, they had Mohawk Indians, the native language, as far as I know, was in there. So the whole thing was in that. We got to see just what the Native Americans would do with these powers and how they kind of adapted to the new land that they were in as they were getting teleported over there. And they kind of had to deal with the conquistadors invading from Spain, dealing with those problems, and kind of getting their revenge, but then being like, hey, let's be the bigger people. They went to the queen, were like, you gotta stop doing this, and offered peace. We also get another, similar to the last episode, we get a little bit of a cliffhanger there as we get a familiar face from Season 1 making an appearance, with Supreme Strange arriving, saying he's looking for Kahori, and kind of takes her away. Not in the kind of way that Peggy got taken away with the surprise there, but that was interesting because, especially with no ties, I had no idea where that was going, but we'll get there later. Hela finding the 10 rings was the next episode. So what was the dealio here? So this was the time when Hela got banished. So obviously more MCU canon, she gets banished to hell, and you know, she's kind of trapped there. This one we went full Thor 1, where he stripped away her powers, he took the helmet away, and kind of made the vow of like, whoever is worthy of this power can get it, blah blah blah, and he kicks her butt over to Midgard, to Earth. Now, to me, when that happened, I was like, why didn't you just do this in the MCU? Well, we'll see why. So this is, I couldn't put an exact time period in this, but when Wu is here, he's got the 10 rings, and him and his people have found the helmet. Hela arrives on the scene. She doesn't realize that she has no power, so she tries like commanding them all and all that jazz. But Wenwu's like having none of it. But he does admire her strength and tenacity with like fighting off some of his guards and stuff like that. So he kind of gets a little bit of a crush on her. He wants to make an alliance. Hela wants none of this. She just wants, you know, her stuff back. And pretty much it takes Hela and puts her in the story of Shang-Chi. Just kind of swap. She meets the little guy in the dungeon. They escape. They go through the bamboo forests, maze thingamabob. They get to the Holy Land. I don't recall if this was Wenwu's wife. I might have been mistaken there, but she eventually teaches Hela, after Hela kind of comes with peace to herself, of like what she really wants. And it's not revenge per se, it's just more the freedom to make her own choices and not have to like constantly do the bidding of others. So she kind of like finally gets more of a level head. While this is happening, Heimdall warns Odin that the 10 rings are on Earth and they can kill gods, and he's like, you might want to take care of that. So Hela sees, or rather learns, that Odin's going to be doing this and attacking Earth. So she chooses to go after him and defend the peace that is here. Hela and Wenwu work together to fight off Odin. Cool fight there. Eventually, Hela gets the upper hand, so she tries to like stave off, or rather grab, ask for mercy and be like, hey, let's stop doing that. Unfortunately, Odin's not about that, but luckily the crown, similar to the hammer, flies over to Hela. She gets her powers back, but is like kind of transformed in a white suit instead of black suit, because life over death, I don't know, gimmicky. And they just say, nope, Odin doesn't want it, so they get rid of him. So she's going to give peace a chance, and they're going to make an empire, which, peace, empire, shaky, but whatever. They're going to make an empire of peace that will span across the cosmos. And this is where we get the tease, where we see Hela, Wenwu, and their kind of army rush to Thanos, offering a hand to a young Gamora to try and nip him in the butt, because obviously he's not very nice. So that was a good one overall, but we're going to lead into probably my favorite episode, and I feel like this is going to be a lot of people's favorite episodes, just because there's a lot of characters in it. It's goofy, but also kind of a good narrative just for the 30 to 40 minutes this episode was about. So this is going to tie back or jump back to where we left Peggy with an older Nick Fury and a Scarlet Witch as we jump into the Avengers assembled in 1602. So there's no really backstory of like why this is happening or what's different in comparison to the other episodes. We do learn later that this is a multiverse that's just designed to die, and sometimes multiverses do that where they don't have any strong tethers. I don't know, don't ask, I'm not a time genius, but that's what the Watcher said, is some worlds amongst the multiverse are simply destined to die. Sometimes a glimmer of hope can save them, and then they can make us a recovery. But the thing here that was causing a ruckus or causing problems, this universe is like falling apart, as we see in the opening here. We see that Hela is queen of this realm. Loki and Thor are both there. Loki's like a super drama queen and is really into acting, and Thor's like Hela's right-hand man. We see Loki performing. He's doing not great, or at least isn't being super entertaining. And these rifts appear in the sky, and it's kind of like a vacuum. And unfortunately, Peggy was brought in because Scarlet Witch thought she would be the one to save the day or fix this problem. Hela is sucked up into this rift. Peggy's unable to save her, and seemingly Hela dies. Thor is appointed king. He's not happy. He says, all right, Peggy, you're supposed to fix this. You're out of here, and wants her jailed. So it's kind of Peggy now on the run in a universe she's not even supposed to be in, and that's the story that we're going with here. But the reason we learn later on that this multiverse or this world or whatever you want to call it is not working out, it's the 1602 period and it's the 21st century period like mashed together, and for some reason obviously that's not jiving with each other, so it's struggling to keep that planet a hold, and this rift is trying to destroy them because it doesn't make sense. And there's someone there that's not supposed to be there. Apparently there was a forerunner from the future. Maybe that's the 21st century element. So it turns into this mission where Peggy's still trying to save this world from dissipating, disappearing, getting destroyed. But she has to kind of get a ragtag group together to try and help her out. And this is where it got fun, because it was just surprise after surprise after surprise of characters that were in this. So there was a lot. So we already talked about Thor, Loki, Hela at the beginning. Later on, I picked up that Happy Hogan was working for the Queen, so that was funny to see him in a kind of more 1602 vibe. But we saw Fury, we saw Scarlet Witch. We'll also eventually run into Rogers Hood. Yep, Steve Rogers is pretty much Robin Hood, and he's got his ragtag of merry men, including Ant-Man, Scott Lang, and Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier. So that was fun. We got to see the Yellow Jackets. They're kind of like the Royal Guard. We got to see eventually the Hulk. We got to see Banner be this similar monster, nothing really too different with him. He kind of started with a mask, but lost it once he hulked out. I feel like there was someone else or something else. We did see a quick glimpse of Red Skull, who was one of the guards who was fighting with Bucky later on. But yeah, it was just fun. It was a little fun surprises here and there. And obviously to see them all in this medieval-esque setting using that kind of verbiage was very funny. I think Ant-Man was probably the best as he was going around going, tally-ho, and all that jazz. So that it was just a fun episode. Eventually we do learn... Oh, sorry. Tony Stark was also there. No suit, but he was a scientist. We eventually do learn the identity thanks to our friends. And Tony's invention, we learn who the Forerunner is, who's the person who's not supposed to be here. And we learn it's Steve. Steve and Peggy this whole time have been reconnecting, as both of their counterparts are presumably dead in their own respective universes. And they get a moment here to kind of reconvene, reconnect, and Steve's not supposed to be there. We learn why Steve's there, so we get a kind of a callback to Infinity War of the MCU canon, where he goes after Thanos. He throws a punch with the new like Wakandan little mini shields or whatever you want to call them, and he hit the time stone, which kind of kicked him over to this different time and multiverse. So that's why he's here. But essentially, in order to fix, or rather save this multiverse, Peggy needs to remove Steve from here. And she has a tough time doing that, but her and Steve do the right thing. He helps her with it by using the gauntlet that Tony Stark had made for Peggy, and, you know, pushes the little button that they have on there, sending him out, but they're able to save this multiverse. So yeah, Peggy, being depressed, still need to be in her own time, is at a bar kind of sulking. She hears something happen behind her, and she's like, hey, Watcher, is that finally you? Are we ready to go home? And it's Supreme Strange. He blips in, talks with her, and he's like, I got a story to tell you. And this will build into our finale. Alright, so what if Strange Supreme intervened? That's where we're wrapping up this season. Quick little fun Easter egg. The Marvel opening that we usually get, they did bring it back for this episode. They hadn't for the other 8. But it was all the what-if scenarios, so you got to see them instead of the live action amongst the Marvel wording and all that jazz as we flew through for the opening credits. So, we now learn that London 1602 multiverse is now at peace because of what Peggy did and the rest of the heroes. But Strange needs her help. He's going to help her get home, but needs her help first. He brings Peggy to the Sanctum Infinitum. Yep, that's the silly name, but I get it. And he kind of tells her what he's been doing. So we learned in the first season, Supreme Strange, he went all psycho crazy because he wanted Christine for himself. Wanted, just a happy life, but unfortunately just was not in the cards. He tried to change too much. And in doing so, he killed the entire universe around him, or rather his timeline, and has been in a life of seclusion since. At the end of last season, he was recruited to Guardians of the Multiverse, so he was able to help there. That's how him and Peggy know each other. And since then, in this new sanctum, in his bubble, he has been going and capturing universe killers from a lot of other timelines, multiverses, whatever. Because they know the Watcher won't intervene, so he's like, I'll take it upon myself. I'm going to get all these people to try and help others. But like I said, Strange needs help. Apparently one of the killers escaped. Great. Peggy won't help initially, but she decides, all right, finally, I will. It's the right thing to do. So Strange reveals that the bad person is a her. And I was like, okay, is this going to be a Scarlet Witch type thing? Because I know we had seen zombie Scarlet Witch teased, I believe, in the trailers. And then it was also like, ooh, what if we do flip it on its head? We have an evil Peggy Carter. Like, have her be the bad one. Before sending her away, Strange gives her some new armor. Says once again he'll send her home afterwards. Doesn't give any info of what the bad person is like. It's just like, you'll know her when you see her. All right, great. So she gets sent into this multiverse where Project Pegasus, I believe it was called, whatever Hydra was working on back in World War II, it succeeded. Neither her nor Steve survived. So nobody was able to stop Hydra, Red Skull, all that jazz. So this world is like, what if Hydra won? We see a giant Red Skull mountain, and she's working her way over towards it. And you start seeing a blue blur. And you're like, okay. And I'm like, okay, is this Quicksilver? Are we going like an Avengers 2 route? We're going to rechange that story, tell a different telling. Now, of course not. It was Kahori. She's running around. She beats the shit out of Carter. Carter attempts to throw her shield at her. Kahori grabs it. And she says, she speaks English now. Perfectly fine. She's not doing the Mohawk language. She's like, Strange brought you here to stop a universe, or Carter claims she was here to stop a universe killer. And Corey goes, yeah, I'm not the universe killer, but he is. So Kahori offers the shield back, so we get the whoop, we get the little Uno reverse card again, where Strange is the bad guy. And Strange is just trying to resurrect his timeline. And what he's trying to do is to kill off all these giant forces of evil and good. I think it was righteous heroes and universe killers, or whatever the fuck. Put them in this forge, kill them, and then he's hoping their life source would restore his own. It leads to a whole big thing of, you know, fighting. You obviously get our two heroes fighting off Supreme Strange, but in order to buy themselves time and hopefully stop the Forge thing, Peggy also releases all of the prisoners there. So you see a lot of characters in there. I just wrote down the ones I saw. So we saw Star-Lord, we saw Hulk, we saw a Rocket Raccoon, which was like cyborg. There was a random Asgard guard. There was a dark elf. There was Loki, like a Western style with some pistols. We saw a random evil lawn gnome. And then we did eventually see Zombie Scarlet Witch. We also did see Hela. We saw Surtur. We saw Thanos. We saw Killmonger from Season 1 with the Infinity Stones. Eventually how this turns out, like I said, the two heroes are fighting Supreme Strange. Peggy uses the Infinity Suit from Killmonger, speaking of him, to kind of give her the upper hand, or rather help the fight. But they're pretty evenly matched. The two aren't able to take out Strange completely. Eventually he gets enveloped in rage and becomes that kind of twisted dark monster that we also saw him become in Season 1. As he's kind of overgrown with grief. He tries dumping through teleportation and portals the people fighting upstairs, all the jabronis that he's captured, into the Forge. We get a struggle back and forth where, like, Kahori's like, oh, I can send them back to their time, their own timelines, their respective timelines. And our heroes keep up the struggle and keep up the fight. In seeing what is going to happen, all of those people, falling heroes and villains alike, throw over like their weaponry to try and help Peggy and Kahori. So you see, like, Peggy has Hela's helmet on and a giant sword from Odin and a bunch of swords that she's able to levitate and all that crap. And then Kahori has the 10 rings, and I believe she also has Mjolnir that she's able to levitate with the space energy. It's this big hoopla of all this stuff. So like I said, Strange is consumed by his grief, this monster or whatever. He's able to fight long enough, or rather they're fighting, and Peggy tackles him off of whatever platform they're fighting on. So Peggy and Strange are going to fall into the Forge. Just before this, I believe Kahori has saved everyone else. Yeah, she's made the portal, so everybody's gone back. So Strange and Peggy are falling to the Forge. Peggy's able to get out. And Supreme Strange is able to fight off his grief just long enough and fight off the beast inside to fall into the Forge, seemingly killing him and the beast. Big explosion happens. The Watcher finally intervenes, sends Kahori back to her timeline, saves Peggy, and we see that Strange's plan did work. It did bring back his universe, his multiverse, his timeline. at the cost of his own life. He was never born in the timeline. We just see Christine and the world kind of as is. And then Watcher's like, hey, you know, you didn't need me to intervene. You just needed you, Peggy. You ready to go home? And she's like, yeah. Can we take the scenic route home? I'm sure there's something interesting to see. Watcher says there definitely is. And we get this like 180 camera pan where we see the Tree of Life from Loki season 2, or rather the Tree of Time, not the Tree of Life, excuse me. Tree of Time. So we get to see the time, or the tree that Loki has now made, being in control of time, which was fun. That was a cute little Easter egg. Shout out to that. And yeah, that was What If season 2 in a nutshell. Like I said, I enjoyed it a lot. Some episodes definitely hit higher than others. I would say the 1602 one was my favorite, probably followed by the Peter Quill one. And like I said, that could just be more because of like more characters. What's the difference between them? Other than that, I would say probably Iron Man and the Grandmaster one was probably the strongest storyline one, in my opinion. But yeah, I enjoy it. Like I said, it's just the fun and silliness of like the, not randomness, but having no tethers and having fun with those stories of taking the elements obviously we've grown to love, or not grown to love, that sounds bad, loved over this journey of the 21 movies plus at this point, and then seeing what fun elements they kind of turn on their heads and change up. Even if it's small things, it's just fun to experiment and see what they can do. Now, last but not least, before we wrap this up, there was a tease of season 3. I thought it was at the end of the finale. I watched late, so I don't know. But I didn't see anything there, so I'm going to quickly look up and see what they did show. So they are, obviously, confirmed. They're working on season 3 of What If, so that's cool. I wonder if they'll continue to tie things in, if Peggy will remain to be the seemingly main character of this, but we'll have to see. So, first clip of season 3 revealed an episode that will unite the Winter Soldier, Red Guardian from Black Widow with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Bill Foster, aka Goliath, also featuring in the footage. Just like past seasons. Nope, that's not it. I thought there was also Bucky in a car. Is that right? It's supposed to be Red Guardian? I guess it is. Only one episode has been officially revealed for What If Season 3 so far. The clip coming from a tale featuring Black Widow's Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier on a mission in the U.S. at some point in the past. Okay, so that's you got a little quick tease there. But, so cool. Cool they're making more. Excited to see what comes out of it if, eventually we do get to the Secret War stuff. If any of these characters will make an appearance. We got, obviously, the glimpse and short look, rather, in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. We got Peggy in there, which was fun. Obviously, we got Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and we got Patrick Stewart making his return as Professor X. I'm curious if any of these characters will eventually make it to something like that, where a Secret Wars where we can get crazy. Love to see Peggy back, and Haley Atwell. That would be cool. I feel like Kahori has to make a return, if at least in some fashion, right? But why make this original character? Like, it was cool to see her in the finale, but she didn't do a lot. I guess the only thing that was like necessary for her to be there was to transport all the people back. It just seems odd. Like, if you're going to make a completely new character, that new character has to be really important in terms of the story. Was it just the teleportation aspect? I feel you could have done something different there if that was just that. So I feel like there's got to be a bigger building block there. If it's for inclusivity, hey, great, cool. That was definitely a great episode, and it was different from the others in a good way, in terms of presentation and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see where her character goes. But yeah. Well, guys, this has been another episode of the Marvel Plus podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed What If Season 2. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. What were your ups, your downs? Do you like it? Do you not? Whatever it was. But yeah, I really enjoyed this season. I'm looking forward to more. Like I said, it's just the fun aspect of it, of not the randomness, but the fun freedom of creativity that the creators have with these episodes in this type of series. Obviously, that was the fun of it with the comics too, and now just to have this medium where it is more, obviously, more recent history of the movies and stuff that we can play around with. I think it's a fun twist on things. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the episodes. Thanks for tuning in, giving this a watch, giving a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.